We were seated at a corner table by the window, his favorite spot. The same restaurant where he had first asked me to be his girlfriend. The same one where he proposed 2 years later. This time, it was our fourth anniversary. I wore the deep blue dress he once said made me look unreal, and he smiled when he saw me in it, but it felt practiced, like a line he'd already rehearsed. Still, I tried to ignore the pit in my stomach. I told myself I was just being paranoid, that maybe I was tired or overthinking. But deep down, I already knew something wasn't right. The signs had been there for weeks, subtle shifts in his energy. Fewer I love you texts, late work nights that didn't add up. A certain distance in his eyes when we talked, like he was present in body, but his mind was somewhere else. I wanted to believe tonight would change that. That maybe he had just been distracted and tonight would remind him of us. The us that used to laugh until our cheeks hurt. The us that danced barefoot in the kitchen when our song came on. But as we sat there, sipping wine and waiting for the food, I realized he wasn't looking at me the same. His eyes kept drifting down to his phone, resting near his thigh under the tablecloth. I noticed he kept it face down. I noticed the buzz of notifications, one after another, making the cloth tremble slightly. I tried to ignore it at first, kept smiling, pretending everything was fine. But then mid-conversation he suddenly leaned over, tapped the screen quickly, and tilted the phone just enough that the edge of the message preview peeked through the cloth. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was survival, but I reached down, gently lifted the edge of the cloth, and saw the words that ended everything. I miss you already. Last night was amazing. I froze. The restaurant faded. The sound of clinking silverware, quiet jazz, even his voice had all blurred into background noise. My hand went cold. I sat back up slowly, my face trying to remain neutral, but I could feel something inside me splinter. He didn't notice. Or maybe he pretended not to. He kept talking about the salmon, asking if I remembered how he hated it the first time we came here. I nodded numbly, heart pounding. I wasn't even angry, yet I was just stunned. It was like watching the final puzzle piece fall into place, and suddenly the whole picture changed. This wasn't just any night. This was our night. And while I had picked out the perfect dress and booked the same table and written a card with shaky hands and real love, he had brought someone else's words in his pocket. He brought someone else's body into our memory. And worst of all, he thought I'd never find out that I had. I had found everything right under the table. On the night he swore was about us, I didn't say a word during the rest of the dinner. I smiled at the waitress. I ate my food in small, careful bites. I nodded at his stories. I even laughed twice. And the whole time, I could feel him relaxing, as if the performance was working, as if he had fooled me again. But behind the calm expression on my face, my heart was collapsing in slow motion. He thought he'd gotten away with it, that I didn't see the message, that I didn't notice how his hand stayed near his phone like it was more important than the woman sitting in front of him, that I couldn't hear the shift in his tone to cheerful to polished, like guilt hidden behind a good shirt and a glass of wine. And I realized something that night, somewhere between the last bite of dessert and the moment he reached across the table to hold my hand. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to scream or cry or throw the wine in his face like in the movies. I didn't even want an explanation. I just wanted out. When we got home, he offered to run me a bath, said I deserved it after putting up with him lately. I almost laughed. I watched him move around our shared bathroom like he hadn't just shattered for years of my life. He lit a candle, the same vanilla one I always said reminded me of my mother's kitchen. He poured in lavender salts. Everything felt rehearsed like a guilt ritual. He handed me a towel and kissed the top of my head, whispering, "Happy anniversary, baby." I nodded. Then I closed the door, and I sat on the edge of the tub in silence for 10 whole minutes before standing up, walking to my closet, and pulling out my bag, the one I always kept ready for short trips. I packed only what I needed: my passport, my favorite sweater, a few small things that belonged only to me, things untouched by him. I sat down at the desk in our bedroom and pulled out the same anniversary card I had written earlier that day. I flipped it over and wrote something different on the back: quick, clean, final. You had someone else on our night, so now you have no one. I left it on the bed, right next to his pillow. I took one last look at the room we built together, the place we made plans in, laughed in, even cried in. I didn't feel hate, not even then, just a deep, clear emptiness. The kind you only feel when someone who was supposed to protect your heart treats it like background noise. I walked out the door without making a sound. By the time he would notice I was gone, the bath water would be cold and the candle burned halfway down, and I'd be somewhere far away starting over, not as someone's wife, not as someone's backup plan, but as someone who finally remembered what she deserved. The next morning, I woke up in a small guest house about 2 hours from the city. The place was quiet, surrounded by tall trees and soft morning light, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel watched. I didn't wake up to suspicion. I didn't have to pretend. I just breathed. I sat by the window, with a cup of black coffee, watching the world go on without him. And the strangest thing, it still did. Birds sang, children laughed somewhere beyond the trees. People were already walking their dogs, waving at strangers. Life hadn't ended. My world had broken open, yes, but it hadn't collapsed. I thought about how much of myself I'd given up trying to save something he'd already let go of. All the little compromises, all the moments I told myself, it's probably nothing, every time he pulled away or came home late or locked his phone. I had been loyal not just to him, but to the memory of us. And now I saw how much that memory had been propped up by my denial. He texted me 3 times that morning. "Where are you, babe? Can we talk?" I didn't reply. He didn't deserve my words anymore. Not after what I saw. Not after choosing her, whoever she was, on the same night we were supposed to celebrate us. It wasn't just betrayal. It was cruelty. Quiet, smiling cruelty. The kind you don't see coming because you're too busy believing in love. Later that day, I received one final message. "If this is about what you saw, I can explain, but that's just it." He thought there was an explanation. As if the problem was that I found out, not that he did it in the first place. As if he could spin it, reframe it, clean up the mess with sweet words and half-truths, but the damage was already done. Not just to the relationship, but to the trust. To the part of me that looked up to him. To the way I once believed he'd protect my heart, even on his worst days. He didn't. He chose himself. He chose the thrill, the lie, the other woman. Even on a night meant to honor our commitment. And now I was choosing me. People ask, how do you know when it's really over? I think the answer is simple. It's over the moment you stop hoping they'll change and start wishing you had left sooner. I left a man I loved. I walked away from a life I thought I'd grow old in. And it hurt. God, it hurt. But staying would have hurt more quietly, slowly, every time I looked at him and remembered that message under the table. So, I'm gone. I'm rebuilding, not with anger, not with revenge, just with truth. And the truth is, anniversaries are supposed to be about love and memory. But this one taught me about awakening. He lost me the moment I stopped pretending he hadn't already let me go.